control the narration by using the controls found at the bottom of the slide. You can also use your keyboard to move from slide to slide. Use the Tab key or Shift and Tab keys to navigate the options on a slide and press the space bar or Enter key to select a link or button. If you require audio description for the videos, select the Audio Description On button under the video. To turn off the audio description, select the Audio Description Off button. If you need help at any time, select the question mark found at the top right hand of the slide.
Note: this e-learning module does not constitute legal advice. To determine your rights and obligations under the Occupational Health and Safety Act and its regulations, please contact your legal counsel or refer to the legislation by selecting the button below. E-Law's website.
Welcome. Welcome to the Health and Safety at Work online module for workers. This module is divided into the following 4 sections: Get on board, Get in the know, Get involved, Get more help. This module provides built-in voiceover features which can be controlled by selecting the play and pause buttons located at the bottom of each slide. It is recommended that you complete the module in one sitting.
Introduction. This online module explains your rights and responsibilities on the job and tells you what Ontario's Occupational Health and Safety Act expects from your employer, your supervisor, and you. These are things that you need to know and understand so that you can be safe at work today and every day. One of your employer's duties under the Occupational Health and Safety Act is to give you specific information and instructions about how to stay safe on your job. What you learn from this program will help you start to understand those instructions. We hope you will use what you learn here every day of your working life.
Health and safety at work. Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
My name is Jessica DiSabatino, and 13 years ago, my little brother David was working his second day at a job at a bakery. And after being pulled headfirst into the machine, he was subsequently killed. And since that time, my family has been working hard to bring the message of workplace health and safety to as many people as we possibly can.
Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
The online learning module that you are about to complete was developed for workers, supervisors, and employers. It explains your rights and responsibilities on the job and tells you what Ontario's Occupational Health and Safety Act expects from employers, supervisors, and workers. It will show you the things you need to know and understand so that you can be safe at work today and every day. Everyone in the workplace, from the employer to the newest worker, has different but important duties to keep the workplace safe. Because employers have the most authority in the workplace, they have the greatest responsibility. Preventing injuries and illnesses at work starts here, with the things you will learn in this module, but it doesn't end here. We hope you find the module informative and engaging, and will use what you learn here every day of your working life. Thank you for taking the time to review this very important information.
Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
Step 1. Get on board. At the conclusion of this section, you will be able to describe why you're important to health and safety, Describe the duties of the employer. Describe the duties of the supervisor. Describe the duties and rights of workers.
Health and safety at work. Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
A new job is a chance for a fresh start. I'm learning new skills, meeting new people.
One of the first things I learned when I started working here is that every job has hazards, no matter how safe it looks. I found out that the way I can stay safe is by knowing about anything in this workplace that could hurt me or make me sick. Each one of us here, employers, supervisors, and workers, has a role to play in safety at work. If we all cooperate and do what's expected of us, we can get home safely at the end of the day.
When I started working, I had no idea how often people got hurt or had a work-related sickness on the job. I didn't know that the number of people in Ontario who suffer a work-related illness or injury each year would fill the seats of a dozen big hockey arenas.
I didn't know that people who are starting new jobs are 3 times more likely to get hurt during their first month on the job than at any other time. That's because new and young workers often aren't told about or don't understand the hazards of the job. Sometimes they don't know what questions to ask. Sometimes they don't even know who to ask.
Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
Everyone has a role in safety. A new job is a chance for a fresh start. You're learning new skills and meeting new people. But every job has hazards, no matter how safe it looks. The number of people in Ontario who suffer a work-related illness or injury each year would fill the seats of a dozen big hockey arenas. Of the 2 individuals below, who do you think is more likely to get hurt or sick on the job? Select one of the individuals below and then select the Submit Response button to complete the exercise.
Correct. Correct. Everyone has a role in safety. The right answer is the new and young worker. Studies show that new and young workers in Ontario are 3 times more likely to get hurt during their first month on the job than at any other time. And the greatest risk among new workers is workers over 45. That's because they often aren't told about or don't understand the hazards of the job. They don't know what to expect from their employer, their supervisor, and of themselves. Sometimes they aren't sure what questions to ask. Sometimes they don't even know who to ask. That's how the Occupational Health and Safety Act works. Everyone has a role in safety. The right answer is the new and young worker. Studies show that new and young workers in Ontario are 3 times more likely to get hurt during their first month on the job than at any other time. And the greatest risk among new workers is workers over 45. That's because they often aren't told about or don't understand the hazards of the job. They don't know what to expect from their employer, their supervisor, and of themselves. Sometimes they aren't sure what questions to ask. Sometimes they don't even know who to ask. That's where the law comes in. How the Occupational Health and Safety Act works. The Occupational Health and Safety Act is a set of laws that spells out the duties of employers, supervisors, and the rights and duties of workers. There are also different regulations that are attached to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. They contain more detailed laws about how to make the workplace safe in specific situations. For example, several regulations explain what is needed to work safely with chemicals and other hazardous materials. This includes training, warning labels on products, and information sheets. There are also regulations for different types of workplaces, such as construction projects, healthcare facilities, industrial establishments, and mines. The whole point of the Occupational Health and Safety Act and regulations is to keep workers from getting hurt or sick on the job. There are inspectors from the Ministry of Labour, Training and Skills Development who make sure the laws are followed and may issue orders or lay charges if they aren't. If a person is convicted of breaking the law, there are penalties such as fines or time in prison. The Occupational Health and Safety Act gives everyone in the workplace duties. These duties are connected to the level of authority each person has in the workplace. To sort out all the duties in a workplace, the Occupational Health and Safety Act breaks them down to 3 main levels of authority. 1. The employer, who is in charge of everyone. 2. The supervisor. 3. The worker, you. To which of these 3 people do you think the Occupational Health and Safety Act gives the most duties? Choose one of the images to the right to make your selection. Correct. The right answer is the employer. The more authority a person has in the workplace, the more health and safety duties they have. It's important for your safety that you understand everyone's health and safety duties.
Duties of the employer. Here are some of the things the Occupational Health and Safety Act says every employer has to do as part of their job. Make sure workers know about hazards and dangers in the workplace and how to work safely. Make sure every supervisor knows how to take care of health and safety on the job. Create health and safety policies and procedures for the workplace. Make sure everyone knows and follows the health and safety procedures. Make sure workers wear and use the right protective equipment. Do everything reasonable to keep workers from getting hurt or sick on the job. Duties of the supervisor. Here are some of the things the Occupational Health and Safety Act says every supervisor has to do as part of their job. Tell workers about hazards and dangers in the workplace and show them how to work safely. Make sure workers follow the law and the workplace health and safety policies and procedures. Make sure workers wear and use the right protective equipment. Do everything reasonable to keep workers from getting hurt or sick on the job.
Duties of the worker. Now here are some of the things the Occupational Health and Safety Act says every worker has to do as part of their job. Follow the law and the workplace health and safety policies and procedures. Always wear or use the protective equipment that the employer requires. Work and act in a way that won't hurt them or any other worker. Report any hazard they find in the workplace to their supervisor. Suppose you have been asked to do something that you don't know very much about. True or false? The following is what your employer and your supervisor should do to make sure you are able to do that thing safely. take every precaution reasonable in the circumstances for your protection. Correct.
The people who made the Occupational Health and Safety Act thought about that question too. The Act says that your supervisor and your employer have to take every precaution reasonable in the circumstances for your protection. That means they have to do everything that is reasonable to protect you on the job. Rights of the worker. Your employer has the responsibility to make the workplace as safe as possible and to tell you about any hazards in the work you do. Your supervisor has the same duty. They also have to make sure you know how to avoid those dangers and work safely. You have the right under the Occupational Health and Safety Act to be told about the hazards in the work you do and to be instructed on how to do your work safely. If someone asks you to do work that you don't know enough about, your employer and supervisor are responsible for making sure that you know how to do the work safely. That's why you have the right to speak up and ask questions, even if you are shy or unsure. People can get hurt on the job if they don't have the right information and training. You should never have to be worried that you will get in trouble for asking questions or reporting a problem. It's against the law for your employer or your supervisor to punish you in any way for doing what the Occupational Health and Safety Act says, or for asking your employer or supervisor to do what the Occupational Health and Safety Act expects them to do. This is called a reprisal. It's even against the law for your supervisor or employer to threaten to punish or fire you for doing these things. You also have a right to refuse to do unsafe work if you have reason to believe it puts you or a fellow worker in danger. We will look at this right and your protection from reprisals in more detail later. Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
This quiz provides 5 questions about the material previously covered. Once you've answered the question, select the Submit Response button to submit your response. Good luck. 1. The thousands of people in Ontario who suffer a work-related illness or injury each year might include your neighbors, family, or loved ones. True is correct. Please select the next slide arrow.
2. New workers are less likely to get hurt on the job than people who have been on the job longer.
False is correct. New workers are actually the most likely to get hurt. Please select the next slide arrow to continue.
3. The Occupational Health and Safety Act and regulations tell everyone from the employer to the newest worker how to make the workplace safer.
True is correct. Please select the next slide arrow to continue.
4. The Occupational Health and Safety Act puts the greatest responsibility on the employer to make sure no one gets hurt or sick on the job.
True is correct. Please select the next slide arrow.
5. It's against the law for my employer to fire or punish me for doing what the Occupational Health and Safety Act says.
True is correct. Please select the next slide arrow to continue.
Congratulations, you have successfully completed the quiz. Please continue to the next slide using the next slide arrow or the keyboard. Step 2. Get in the know. At the conclusion of this section, you will be able to explain that you have the right to know about workplace hazards, identify examples of workplace hazards, identify ways that your employer and supervisor can protect you from workplace hazards, describe other ways to find out about workplace hazards.
Health and safety at work. Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
My name is Kevin Bonas. July 2003, I was involved in an industrial accident. I was working as a industrial millwright, working on a piece of equipment with the operator. I found myself in a position where the machine cycled while I was in it. It amputated both my feet from my body. I was trapped in the machine for an hour and a half while rescuers got me out of the machine. 2 teams of surgeons spent 8 hours reattaching my feet. After the surgery, I was told that the success rate for the surgery was less than 5%, and that I would most likely not be keeping my feet. I can't squat, I can't run. My son plays hockey. I can't get on the ice with him. I'm unable to do that. And I deal with chronic pain every day. Hopefully, by taking this training, you'll be able to implement the lessons you learn through this training and not be in the position that I'm in.
Hi, my name is Dan Maximier. I'm a health and safety consultant with the Infrastructure Health and Safety Association. I've been with this organization now for almost 5 years. 6 years ago, though, however, I was a small business owner, general contractor, home builder, and I was involved in a serious accident within the construction industry. I ended up breaking my right leg between my knee and the ankle, 9 different places in both bones. My left ankle, actually, I shattered completely. Had my toe of my left work boot touching my knee. I shattered that ankle and both my leg bones halfway up the leg. I lived in the hospital for a couple months recovering, wheelchair after that for about 14 months. My business went bankrupt, stopped working. The biggest thing for myself, how it affected my lifestyle, is even though I'm able to walk now, I just can't do the same things. I was big into sports before. I'm very limited now. I've got two daughters, one who is 6 years old now. 3 years ago, she could beat me in a running race. Just little things like that, and all just for the sake of, I was rushing on the job, quick as I could to get things done, cutting corners, taking chances, and I just tell everybody when I'm training, it's not worth it, because one of these days, you may think it's not going to happen, but it could just happen so quick.
Hi, my name's Patty Penny. I'm here to tell you about my son, Luke Patrick Penny. He was waterproofing a garage wall when the wall collapsed on top of it, crushing him. It was the worst day of my entire life, and the worst day of my family's entire life. Our lives will never be the same again. I don't even know how to put it into words. It was like shock, devastation. Any emotion that you could have was there. Part of me died that night with my son. I have never been the same, and I don't believe I ever will be. My family will never be the same. And hopefully somewhere in this video, people will realize, and it will help them be safe at work.
Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
You need to know about hazards. Some people say that what you don't know can't hurt you. That's not true at work. On some jobs, what you don't know can kill you. A hazard is anything in the workplace that could hurt you or the people you work with. All of us have heard about a worker or group of workers who were killed on the job. We have heard of workers falling from heights, getting caught in equipment, or being electrocuted and burned. Events like these send a shockwave through the workplace and the community, and it is a tragic loss for the victim's family and friends. Unfortunately, this kind of event happens not once or twice, but dozens of times each year in Ontario. There is a hazard at the root of every work-related death, injury, or sickness. A hazard can take many forms. Sometimes more than one hazard can combine to make an even bigger hazard. You need to know about the hazards in your workplace before you start working.
Health and safety at work. Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
Here are some of the most common hazards in Ontario workplaces.
Repeating the same movements over and over. It's even more risky if you're in an awkward position or you use a lot of force. Think of someone who bends over all day, or someone who lifts heavy things over and over again, especially if it's above the shoulders or below the knees.
Slipping, tripping, or falling. Think of something as simple as slipping on spilled coffee on the floor, tripping in a cluttered work area, or falling off a raised platform that has no guardrails.
Motorized vehicles. Think of being hit by a dump truck that is backing up on a construction site, or someone getting hit by a forklift truck in a warehouse or on a loading dock.
Using or working near machinery. Machinery can be very hazardous. Many workers have been killed or seriously injured by the equipment they operated.
Workplace violence. It can happen to people in many workplaces, such as a gas station attendant working alone at night, or a healthcare worker in a hospital or a home.
Then there are the less visible hazards. Things like chemicals, fumes, toxic dust, or germs and viruses in schools, labs, and healthcare workplaces. Some of these hazards can make you very sick. Sometimes they will make you sick right away. Other times you won't know you're sick until months or even years later. That's why you need to know how to protect yourself now.
Prevention starts here, but it doesn't end here.
Which of the following are common workplace hazards? Select all that may be a hazard below. Loud noise. No lighting. Sharp objects or equipment. An object that could fall from a height. Electricity and other energy sources.
All of the items that were listed should have been selected as they are all possible hazards.
You also need to think about less visible hazards related to your work, things like chemicals, fumes, and toxic dust, or germs and viruses in labs and healthcare workplaces. Some of these hazards can make you very sick. Sometimes they make you sick right away. Other times you don't know that you are sick until months or even years later. That's why it's important to know about these hazards now. It's the employer's duty to make sure that the supervisor knows enough and has enough experience and training to keep workers safe and healthy while they work. It's the employer's and supervisor's duty to inform workers of health and safety hazards. It's the worker's duty to report hazards they know of to the supervisor or employer as soon as possible so they can fix it. Employers, supervisors, and workers work together to make the workplace safer. Here are 4 important questions about your job that you need to know the answers to. If you don't know, ask your supervisor. 1. What are the hazards of this job? 2. Is there any special training needed for this job? 3. Do I have the right protective equipment for this job? 4. If I have any questions about safety, who do I ask?
Select all appropriate health and safety questions you should ask from the list below. How do I report an injury? What do I do in an emergency? Who do I report unsafe equipment to? Am I focusing on the task and doing it safely? When will I get training about job-specific hazards? All of the items that were listed should have been selected as they are all appropriate health and safety questions.
Protecting you from hazards. There are many ways that your employer can protect you from workplace hazards. The best way is to get rid of or eliminate the hazard completely. A good example is replacing a toxic cleaning chemical with one that is non-toxic. If the hazard can't be eliminated, your employer can try to reduce the hazard. This can be done by reducing how much of the hazard you are exposed to. An example of this is improving ventilation systems or putting a barrier around a dangerous piece of equipment. These are called engineering controls.
Another way to reduce hazards is to reduce how long or how often you come in contact with the hazard. This can be done by arranging the work differently so that you are not exposed as long. These are called administrative or work practice controls. If the hazard still exists after trying to control it through elimination, engineering controls, and administrative or work practice controls, your employer may require you to use protective equipment and/or protective devices.